because I think that's how I was taught. Today we're talking about planning our stories. Who here has written a story? Who here has started a story and then stopped a story because you weren't organized enough? Me too! So, some material today will be borrowed from this book. However, Riley was the one who borrowed it, so I'm not sure what it is. We can play a fun guessing game together. The traditional structure, you've probably all seen this in like elementary school, middle school, something, right? At least I had to see this so many times when I was in school. So we've got the beginning, which is, I need a teacher stick.
I know.
Yes, Luke? Yes, Luke! I'm gonna be the cause of the first dead pixels on this screen.
Please don't.
Slap! Okay, so we've got our beginning, which is exposition, and then the little kink right here is the inciting incident. That's what makes the story happen. When Luke is like, whoa, my family got killed by Imperial stormtroopers. I guess I'll go on an adventure. That was the inciting incident of Star Wars. If you haven't seen the movies, I'm very sorry for spoiling it. It's chase. And then we have the rising action and the climax. This takes up most of the plot generally, is the rising action. The climax generally happens somewhere in the like 2/3 towards the end.
Final boss.
Yeah, it's the final boss, exactly. And then we have the falling action, which I will habitually refer to as the denouement this whole time, and I'm so sorry. So we have the falling action, and then the ending or resolution, and that's like the quickest part of a story generally, because the climax already happened. That's the exciting part, and people get frustrated with you if you then spend 500 more pages or 3 more hours talking after that, after the important part. So, this can apply to the story like as a whole thing or to a smaller level. This is especially true. Slap! No! Or to a smaller level, this is especially true in game writing because there's levels within games. In movies and novels, it's less so, but this is especially important to us. As an example, who here has played Breath of the Wild?
Going through it a second time on Master Mode.
Okay, I don't have to worry about spoilers with you. If you don't want to hear spoilers, plug your ears and understand what I have to say just by intuiting it. So, this is exposition is the whole tutorial area. Everything in the Great Plateau where Link wakes up and he's like, I have amnesia. I don't know what's happening. That's all the exposition where they're teaching you the mechanics. You talk to the old man and he's like, actually, I'm a king. And it's your destiny to go save everything. That's the inciting incident when he tells you go save everything and you're like, okay, I'll do that. And then, just the story mode of the game is finding all of the divine beasts and freeing all of the champions. And then, at the end, there's the climax, which is fighting Calamity Ganon. That's the final boss, like you said. And then, this is the ending, which I haven't gotten to. But I know for a fact that there's the falling action, where things wind down, and then the conclusion, where they're like, I'm sure glad you saved Hyrule, Link, and then the game ends. Yes.
Breath of the Wild does something interesting in that it actually introduces exposition throughout the story in the way that you play it. That's one of the things that makes it so interesting. When you keep uncovering information, you're learning more of the things that you should have known at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps you invested in the characters.
this is getting into a little bit of a niche topic here, but I think that's one of the things that made it, like, it's open world, but it's still engaging and feels, like, contained, is the fact that you're still getting story elements throughout the game, which is very fun. So, okay, this is the whole game, and it follows the basic triangle structure, right? But, just within the Gerudo Desert, let's say, we have our exposition and inciting incident. You see a weird storm, sandstorm. And you go to the oasis and people are like, wow, that sure is a weird machine running around the desert making a storm. And that's your inciting incident. It's like, this is a quest. This is my goal in this area. It's the thing that gets you moving towards the rest of the thing. And then, like, the rising action, you have to collect all of the stuff, get to Reju, collect more items, very much like game mechanic stuff, contributes to rising action a lot in game writing. And then the climax, you fight this horrible little man. I hate him so much.
Oh yeah, he's the worst.
He's the worst, right? Thank you.
Rubber armor, electric burn.
You know, I didn't have that.
Master mode illusory realm. This sucks.
When you're an idiot and you only have 3 hearts, it also sucks.
It is my first boss of that.
Me too. Not a fun time. I didn't know about rubber yet. And then, okay, so this is the climax when you finally beat this horrible, I hate him, and then you get the resolution, the falling action. Urbosa appears and is like, whoa, Link, I'm so proud of you. Lightning. And then that's kind of like your reward for the end of this particular plot triangle. And then you move on to the Zora realm or whatever and do another plot triangle within the overarching plot. Does that make sense? They're kind of like, all of these self-contained plots are nested within the overarching rising action. So, types of structures in games. Jen, would you like to do this, or are you still situated?
I don't know what's on your side.
That is okay.
Thank you for offering.
I
though.
realize now.
I will provide input if I have any. I
Thank
will
you.
assist, but
I support you. You're good. Linear storytelling. This is the same thing that you would get in any other medium. You have point A, point B, point C. These things happen in sequence? No, there is nothing you can do to change it. There's a lot of JRPGs that go like this, where no matter what you do in the game, you will be funneled from point A to point B. You don't get to pick your order. You just go through these events, and you play through it, and that's not necessarily bad. And it's certainly a lot easier for us to do. This is the easiest on our scope. This is the easiest on the rest of our team. It doesn't make the best use of the medium, but scope, everyone will thank you. Fractal storytelling. This is where you have Act 1 and then you like branch off into 2 separate story branches, and they don't meet again. And sometimes in Act 3.5, you'll decide, actually, I would like an Act 4.5.5 and an Act 4.5. And then you just keep on branching.
Sounds like Driver San Francisco.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, for the first act, you play as this detective in San Francisco. You get into a car accident, then you seemingly go through the other 2 acts. Then you realize that you're dreaming this whole time. You come out of the coma, and then you go into Act 2.5, and it goes from there.
Interesting. That would be a form of that, yeah. There is also just the regular form of, like, if you made a choice right there, you could either go down the dream path or the non-dream path, but yeah, it's basically the same thing. You just go whoop and then go back up and then do that. This one is hell on scoping.
Also, in Driver San Francisco, I watched a video a little while ago. Apparently it has a really good example of second-person gameplay.
Really?
Yeah. I really recommend that everyone here check it out. It's pretty insightful.
I'm going to ask you afterwards about second person.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, modular storytelling. This is like fractal storytelling, except you do it in short bursts. So Act 1 fractures into Act 2.5 and Act 2, but no matter what, they both rejoin at Act 3. You can use this in, your overall plot, or you could also, this is a common technique for dialogue trees to make it feel like there's more choice when actually there isn't. So, like...
Okay, you Telltale.
Yeah, so Act 1. Would you like orange juice or milk? And the dialogue options are orange juice or milk. And then Act 3 is, we only have milk. And then you get a glass of milk no matter what. But for a moment, you felt like you had a choice. It feels better. Or you could do the thing where it's like, you keep playing through a linear story, and then at the very end it diverges based on a choice, multiple choices, the outcome of a battle, something like that. So that's modular storytelling. Look at this! Look at these! This is Jen's. It's not finished. This is mine. It is finished, but I no longer have it. So that's why you have a very terrible screenshot of it. Jen, would you like to talk a little bit about your game?
My mess that I'm working on.
Your mess.
Don't do it. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
It wasn't overscoped when I started, but then I stopped thinking about scope and I just kept writing. And now I have that to deal with. Do not recommend.
Is it a Twine game, or
Yes.
is that just the plot? Okay.
It's a Twine
Yeah,
game.
these are both
That
are
was
20.
just the plot.
Oh, man. No, yeah, it's a Twine game. It's like a little bit more feasible, but still, like, I don't recommend it.
Yeah. This one I made my freshman year of college, so 3 years ago? 3 years ago. Math. I didn't have a plan. I decided I wanted 3 character builds, each with paths that only unlocked for their builds. Like if you look over at this section here, this is if you picked the merchant build, and you'd get a whole other like side thing that no one else got. There was another build that like got a variable that was only for him. Only if you were that one build would you get this variable. And then each one of these boxes had, this doesn't look quite as terrifying as Jen's, but you had variable triggered text that was dependent upon what character build you had, what variables you had in place, and that made it very terrible for debugging. Do you see that red box there towards the end? There was an error there, and I never found it. I have no clue what it was. To this day, I don't know. Do this to yourself if you really must. Please don't do it to your team. Here's an example from Kyle in the spirit of game jams, which is happening right after this. All of this was for a game jam. Every single white... Have any of you been to the secret lab? The quiet lab? Okay.
Wait, 6-11?
No, I've got another one. There's more. So there's whiteboards that cover like half of the walls. And while they were plotting out the story for their game jam game, they filled up every single whiteboard in the game lab for a game that they had to make in a weekend. This is hubris. Don't do it. Please don't do it. I think it worked out fine, but it was very chaotic in the moment. Strive to not be this complicated.
It's one of those things where it's not impossible for it to work out really well in the end, but that being said, we do not recommend it because as writers, we can tell incredible stories even in a smaller, more feasible scope that doesn't make the rest of our team want to panic when they see our plot structure and plan idea that we have.
Yeah.
So we should just be able to keep it within the scope that everybody else is trying to achieve, and like still tell really quality stories.
Exactly. Okay. Outlines and treatments. This is the part where we now make the story, and we do it in a scopable way, please. So, outlining methods and tools. These are my jam. I love outlining so much. I like being organized, and it's very comforting. So, we have the 3-act structure with the optional pinch point method, which I did not detail here, but you can ask me about it on Discord or after this. We have the 8-sequence structure. I'm weaker on this, but it's what they use in film to like sequence things out. Because there's 8 of them, this might be a bit out of scope sometimes because we might not have time for 8 sequences. We also have The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. Have any of you heard of that? Okay. So it's all of these are like tools. They're not guidelines. They're not requirements. You look at them, you read them, and you say, I think that I will do this, but not this. It's up to you. It's just a way to get you started, a way to keep you organized, and a way to keep you from not going completely mad with power. Questions to ask when you are outlining your story. What's it about? Who is it about? What do they want or need? A lot of the times, the internal conflict of your story, a lot of the times it hinges on the character's want versus their need. Oh, okay. I'm trying to think of something, but all I can think of is Pitch Perfect. Have you guys
Give that example, do it.
Okay, so in Pitch Perfect, what the protagonist, who I don't remember her name,
Anna Kendrick?
Anna Kendrick. What Anna Kendrick wants is to be left alone to do her music remixing DJ stuff. She would love to be alone. And, but her need is to be part of something. She needs to have a social group that she has things in common with, that she can connect with. Generally, the want, you can, it's generally used as, the conflict between the two is used as plot tension, especially towards the middle, when they get their want and they're not happy, so they realize that they actually need their need. So it's kind of like moving the goalposts. Am I rambling? Am I making sense? Okay, alright. So that's the want or need. These are going to be individual to every character, and it's kind of fun sometimes to play around with like the difference between the two. And you need to ask this if you are playing if you are making a video game. How does gameplay come into the story? Gameplay and writing need to be working together. Thank you. Otherwise, things go bad. If your protagonist is like, what are the people that don't like violence?
Pacifist.
Thank you.
Pacifist protagonist.
Yeah, if your protagonist is a pacifist, they would not hurt a fly, but then you're coming into your team with this story with knowing that your programmers and your designers have decided that this is a hack and slash. That's bad. Ludonarrative dissonance, which we will not talk about right now, because that's for next quarter. So the mechanics and the story that you have made don't agree, and you need to make them agree. Later on, sometime this year, we will talk more about that, but for now, just know that's bad. You need to think about the gameplay, your mechanics, your design, while you are writing your game. Here's a sample outline from Riley. No, not Riley? Did you write this, Riley? Thank you, Riley. Okay, so
Relatable though.
yeah, actually same.
Yeah.
So Sam finds a magic sword, and it wants her to save the world. So she goes to the east, and the sword is like, you're gonna find heirs to a line of royals who will protect the world with sacred magic. Okay. This is our inciting incident. This is our call to adventure. We're gonna go find the heirs and save the world with some magic. Sam finds a castle under attack by an evil queen. She helps drive the queen off, but only managed to save Prince Corin. Corin agrees to help Sam. He knows how to use the magic, but the key to the spell has been stolen by the queen. So we go together to stop the queen, get the key, save the world. Alright? Then, they chase down the evil queen, who is working to start the apocalypse. She is preparing the final spell to destroy the world, and we are going to fight through. This is the climax. We're leading up to the big bad confrontation. Sam challenges the queen to a duel, while Corin attempts to steal the key, but the queen notices him. Everything begins to fall apart, but they work together to beat the queen. They seize the key, they beat the queen, he uses the spell, everything is saved, and we're all good. And then this is our falling action and conclusion. The evil queen has a change of heart and decides to become a force for good. She asks for forgiveness, but Corin says no. He takes the key and returns to rebuild his home that the queen destroyed. Sam and her magic sword go off to find more adventures. This is a pretty solid outline, but it's out of scope. It's very out of scope. Yeah. For us at least, because we make games in quarters. So, what would your other team members need to do for this story? First off, art department. We need Sam and Corin. We need art assets for both of them because we have 2 party members now. We also need the evil queen. How many environments are there? They need environment art for all of the places that you're going, which is at least 1 castle, maybe 2, plus maybe a level in between. That's a lot. What kind of gameplay? Corin is a magic user, and Sam is a fighter. That means 2 different builds that they have to program. Designers have to make all of the levels. You have to make all of the NPCs, because you fight through a horde of enemies on your way to the evil queen. So someone has to draw that, program that, design that, everything. So, words are cheap. We went through this, like, in maybe 5 minutes. If you were reading this as a story, maybe it would take, like, 15 pages. You could probably bang it out in a weekend if you needed to. But because we make this and then hand it to our team, suddenly everyone else has to work and build to make this world believable, and that's what makes these things out of scope. Even though it seems simple to us, it gets out of hand very quickly. Treatments are like outlines, but it's like in greater detail. This is something that your whole team probably should have access to, just to make everything easier. It could have additional notes. Generally, I use that in like comments on a Google Doc or something, just like highlight it and add my additional notes there. Character documents, all that sort of stuff. It's kind of like the paper prototyping that the design department uses. And does programming do it well? Oh my god. Does programming do paper prototyping as well? Or
Not really paper prototyping, but small scale prototyping.
okay. But yeah, so that's it for us. We've got everything. We've got all of the pieces in place. We can hand it to someone and be like, does this make sense? Very helpful. And now we have an activity. I get to stop talking. So, we're going to make an outline for a single level of a platformer game. One scene with multiple beats. Beats are player actions or interactions or encounters. The theme of the story is friendship. If you would like another theme, you may choose another theme. This is not law. You can have any mechanics you would like, but here are some samples. We've got a button that opens a door, a spike trap, an NPC, an enemy. Just like if you're feeling uninspired right now. Understandable. So yeah, this is our activity. We may start whenever you like.
I've got an idea.
You've got an idea.
Yeah. What if we have two characters that you swap between, and they're attached to each other's backs?
Oh, interesting.
So it's kind of like Banjo and Kazooie, but you can swap between the two.
Alright, so that's a mechanic that we've got. Are we working on this as a team or individually? Does anybody have preferences, by the way?
Sounds fun.
Okay. Then I will join you over here. Oh, you know what? I don't think we will. I've decided. Alright, ending stream.